3 months after the war ended, the Coalition Council chamber looked different. The representatives still showed signs of stress, but the fear was gone, replaced by something else: uncertainty about the future. The question on everyone's mind was simple. What do we do about humanity? Human forces still occupied key positions throughout Coalition space. They said it was to ensure the Ravagers followed the peace terms, to provide security while the Coalition rebuilt. But everyone knew the real reason. Nobody wanted to ask the humans to leave and risk offending them. Veltra opened the session. We have gathered to discuss the human presence in Coalition space. Opinions vary widely on this matter. A representative from the Krell species stood up. His mandibles clicked nervously. The humans saved us. We all acknowledge that. But they also showed us how dangerous they are, how efficient at killing. What happens if we displease them? What happens if they decide we are a threat? Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. Fear had not completely disappeared. It had just found a new target. Another representative spoke up. Perhaps we should ask them to leave. Politely, thank them for their help and suggest they return to Earth before they become too comfortable here. And if they refuse? Someone asked. Silence. Nobody wanted to think about that possibility. Kyung-soo had been quiet until now. He stood slowly. Everyone looked at him. He had been right about humanity. He had convinced them to ask for help. Now they waited to hear what he thought. I have spent 3 months with the humans. I have watched them, talked to them, learned about them. And I believe we are asking the wrong question. What is the right question? Veltra asked. Not what do we do about them, but what do we learn from them? They showed us something important. They showed us that peace requires strength. That being civilized does not mean being helpless. So you think we should become like them? The Krell representative asked. Should we build weapons of mass destruction? Should we train our children to kill? Kyung-soo shook his head. No. We should learn to defend ourselves. We should build real militaries. We should prepare for threats instead of hoping they never come. The Ravagers almost destroyed us because we were not ready. We cannot let that happen again. Before anyone could respond, a communication alert sounded. Human forces were requesting to address the council. Veltra accepted the request. Lieutenant Hyojin appeared on the holographic display. She looked calm and professional as always. Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I understand you have been discussing our presence here. I thought you might appreciate hearing our perspective. The chamber went quiet. Hyojin continued. Humanity did not come here to conquer. We came because you asked for help. We stayed because the job was not finished. But we never intended to remain permanently. You are leaving? Someone asked. Yes. Within the next 2 months, all human military forces will withdraw from Coalition space. We came to do a job. The job is done. It is time for us to go home. Relief washed through the chamber, but also confusion. Why? Veltra asked. You could stay. We cannot stop you. You have more power than all of us combined. Hyojin smiled slightly. That is exactly why we are leaving. Power without restraint becomes tyranny. We learned that lesson the hard way in our own history. We will not repeat those mistakes. She paused, then added, but we are not abandoning you. We propose a mutual defense treaty. If the Coalition is ever threatened again, you can call us. We will come. But the Coalition must also agree to build real defenses of your own. You cannot rely on us forever. Commander Taesung appeared beside her on the display. He looked as serious as ever. Lieutenant Hyojin is correct. You asked us for soldiers. We sent executioners because that was what you needed. But next time you should have your own soldiers, your own strength, your own ability to protect yourselves. We can help you build that strength, Hyojin added. Technology exchange, training programs, military advisors. But the responsibility for your defense must ultimately be yours. The council debated for hours. Some wanted the humans gone immediately. Others wanted them to stay forever. Eventually, they reached a compromise. A formal treaty that established Earth as an ally and protector, but not an occupier. Engineer Bora stayed behind to establish technology exchange programs. She would teach Coalition engineers about defensive systems, weapon design, ship construction. Not the most terrible weapons humanity possessed, but enough to make a difference. Captain Dae-hyun volunteered to train Coalition military forces. He set up academies on 3 different worlds, taught tactics and strategy, showed them how to think like soldiers instead of civilians playing at war. His methods were harsh, demanding, but they worked. Coalition soldiers who trained under him came out different, harder, more confident. Ready to defend their worlds, the human fleet began its withdrawal. Ship by ship, they left Coalition space. Kyung-soo watched from the observation deck as the last battleships prepared to depart. Commander Tae-sung had invited him to a private meeting. They met in a small conference room, just the two of them. "You wanted to see me?" Kyung-soo asked. Tae-sung nodded. "I wanted to thank you. You took a risk suggesting that the Coalition ask us for help. You did not know if we would respond. You did not know what we would do if we came." Kyung-soo sat down. "I was terrified. The entire time. Terrified of the Ravagers. Terrified of what you might become. Terrified that I made the wrong choice, did you? Make the wrong choice?" Kyung-soo thought about it. About the battles, the destruction, the violence he had witnessed, but also about the billions of lives saved, the peace that now existed, the future that was possible. "No, I made the only choice that gave us a chance to survive. But I have a question for you. Go ahead. If we call again, if there is another threat, will humanity answer?" Tae-sung looked out the window at his fleet. "We will always answer. That is what allies do. But I hope you never need to call us. I hope you build strong enough defenses that threats think twice before attacking you." He turned back to Kyung-soo. "We did not enjoy this war. We are good at violence, but that does not mean we like it. Every human soldier who fought here will carry the weight of what we did. We want peace as much as you do, maybe more, because we know the true cost of war. What if the Coalition becomes a threat someday?" Kyung-soo asked. "What if we become like the Ravagers?" Tae-sung's expression hardened. "Then we will stop you, just like we stopped the Ravagers, just like we would stop anyone who threatens innocent lives. That is the burden of power, the responsibility to use it correctly." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Tae-sung stood and offered his hand. Human custom, a handshake to seal agreements and show respect. Kyung-soo took it. "Take care, Commander. Thank you for everything." Tae-sung smiled. It was a real smile this time, warm, almost friendly. "Take care, Ambassador. Build a strong coalition. Make sure we never have to send executioners again." The last human ship departed 2 days later. Kyung-soo watched from the same observation deck where he had first seen the fleet arrive. The dark, dangerous warships disappeared into faster-than-light travel one by one. Beltra joined him. They stood together in silence. "Do you think the galaxy will remember this?" she asked. Kyung-soo nodded. "Yes. Everyone will remember the day humanity showed its true face. The day the galaxy learned that our peaceful neighbors were also the most dangerous species alive. Is that a good thing? It is a necessary thing. The galaxy needed to learn that peaceful does not mean weak, that civilization does not mean helpless. Humanity taught us that lesson. Now we need to learn from it." He thought about everything he had seen. The efficiency, the ruthlessness, the absolute determination to win, but also the mercy, the restraint, the choice to be more than just killers. Humanity had shown the galaxy something important. They had shown that monsters could choose to be heroes, that the capacity for violence did not require its constant use, that the strong could protect the weak without dominating them. The last human ship disappeared. The display showed empty space where the fleet had been, but the galaxy was not empty. It was full of species learning a new way to exist, learning to balance peace with strength, learning to defend themselves while remaining civilized, and somewhere out there humanity watched. Ready to help if needed, ready to fight if called, but hoping, always hoping, that the call would never come. Because the galaxy had learned its lesson. They had begged Earth for soldiers. Earth had sent executioners, and everyone remembered. The Ravager home system had 3 planets. 2 were heavily industrialized. The third was their capital world, home to 5 billion Ravagers and their central government. The human fleet arrived at the edge of the system in perfect formation. 50 warships, hundreds of support vessels, thousands of fighters and bombers. It was the largest force humanity had ever deployed outside Earth's solar system. Commander Tae-sung stood on the bridge of his flagship. Around him, officers worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. The bridge was calm. Everyone knew their job. "Open a channel to the Ravager government," he ordered. The communication officer nodded. "Channel open, sir." Taesung spoke clearly. "This is Commander Taesung of the Earth Defense Force. Your forces have killed billions of innocent beings. You have rejected every offer of peace. You have shown no mercy to anyone. I am here to end your threat permanently." He paused, then continued. "I'm giving you one chance. Surrender now. Disarm completely. Submit to coalition authority, or we will destroy your military and your government by force. You have 1 hour to decide." The channel went silent. Taesung waited. Around the bridge, officers checked their systems. Everything was ready. Kyung-soo watched from the coalition observation ship. He had insisted on being here for the final battle. He needed to see how this ended. Veltra was with him. She looked worried. "Do you think they will surrender?" Kyung-soo shook his head. "No, they are predators. They will fight until they cannot fight anymore, and then we will see what kind of species humanity really is." 58 minutes passed. Then the Ravagers responded. Not with words, with weapons. Their defensive fleet launched from orbit around the capital world. More than 200 warships. It was everything they had left. Their last chance to stop the humans. "Enemy fleet launching," the tactical officer reported. "They are moving to intercept." Taesung nodded slowly. "They chose poorly. All ships execute Battle Plan Omega. Show them what happens when you refuse mercy." The human fleet moved forward, not rushing, not hesitating, just advancing with mechanical precision. Lieutenant Hye-jin was in the intelligence center. She had spent weeks planning this moment. Now her work would be tested. "Initiating information warfare protocols," she announced calmly. Human electronic warfare systems went active. They broadcast false sensor data into Ravager networks. They jammed communication channels. They sent conflicting orders that looked like they came from Ravager commanders. The Ravager fleet formation started to break apart. Ships moved in wrong directions. They fired at targets that did not exist. They ignored real threats because their sensors said nothing was there. Human missiles launched, thousands of them. They moved through space like a swarm of metal insects. Ravager point defense systems tried to shoot them down, but they were firing at ghost targets. The real missiles got through. Explosions bloomed across the Ravager fleet. Ships broke apart. Atmosphere vented. Reactors exploded. In the first 10 minutes, the Ravagers lost 50 ships. Captain Dae-hyun led the fighter assault. His squadron dove through the chaos with practiced skill. They targeted Ravager command ships, the big vessels that coordinated the fleet. "Target lock achieved," his weapons officer reported. Firing plasma torpedoes streaked toward a Ravager flagship. The ship tried to evade, too slow. The torpedoes hit the command section. The flagship went dark. "Confirmed kill," Dae-hyun reported. Moving to next target, the battle continued. It was not really a battle. It was a massacre. Human forces moved with perfect coordination. Every shot seemed to hit. Every tactic worked exactly as planned. The Ravagers fought back desperately. They had courage. They had determination. But they were fighting an enemy that had spent centuries perfecting the art of war. An enemy that knew every trick, every strategy, every weakness. Engineer Bora watched from the support ship. Her weapons were performing perfectly. The electromagnetic pulse generators disabled Ravager shields. The kinetic penetrators punched through armor. The plasma weapons burned through hulls. Every weapon she had designed was being used. Every terrible idea she had turned into reality was killing Ravagers by the hundreds. She should have felt proud. Instead, she felt tired. This was necessary. She knew that. But knowing something was necessary did not make it easier to watch. 4 hours into the battle, the Ravager fleet was gone. A few ships tried to run. Human fighters hunted them down. No mercy, no quarter. Complete destruction. Dae-hyun led the ground assault on the capital world. Dropships descended through the atmosphere toward the government complex. The Ravagers had fortified it heavily. Thousands of soldiers. Heavy weapons. Underground bunkers. None of it helped. Human soldiers hit the ground fighting. They moved through the complex like they had practiced there for years. They knew every corridor, every defensive position, every escape route, because they had studied it. Hye-jin's intelligence teams had mapped the entire complex from orbit. They knew exactly where everything was. Ravager defenders tried to stop them. Human weapons cut through their ranks. Bora had designed special charges just for this assault. They burned through the reinforced doors of the bunkers. They collapsed tunnels. They disabled life support systems. The Ravager government leadership was in the deepest bunker, surrounded by their best guards, protected by meters of armor and rock. Dae-hyun reached them in 3 hours. The guards surrendered when they realized they could not win. The government officials had no choice. They were captured alive and brought to the surface. Total operation time, 6 hours and 14 minutes. Commander Tae-sung transported down to the capital world. He stood in what had been the Ravager Parliament building. The captured leaders knelt before him. They were big, powerful creatures, but they looked small now, defeated. Coalition representatives arrived to witness what would happen next. Kyung-soo stood with them. His legs felt weak. He had watched the entire battle, had seen the complete and total destruction of the Ravager military. Now he would see what kind of victor humanity would be. Tae-sung looked down at the Ravager leaders. His expression was cold, hard. You killed billions. You destroyed worlds. You refused every chance for peace. By all rights, I should execute you and let your species remember this day forever. The Ravagers said nothing. They expected death. They had earned death, Tae-sung continued. But humanity learned something over our long history. We learned that revenge feels good but accomplishes nothing. We learned that cycles of violence only end when someone chooses to break them. He pulled out a data pad. These are the terms. Your military is disbanded permanently. Your weapons are destroyed. Your government answers to the coalition. You will pay reparations for the worlds you destroyed. You will spend the next century proving you can be civilized. One of the Ravager leaders looked up. Why? Why do you not just kill us? Tae-sung's expression softened slightly. Because we are not like you. We are dangerous. We are deadly. We are very, very good at killing. But we choose when to kill and when to show mercy. That choice is what makes us different. That choice is what makes us worthy of the power we possess. He looked at the coalition representatives. Your species asked us for help. We gave it, but we did not enjoy this. Every death in this war weighs on us. We will carry this burden so you do not have to. Kyung-soo felt tears in his eyes. He had been so afraid of what humanity might do, so worried they would be monsters. They were monsters. But they were monsters who chose to be more than their nature allowed. The Ravager leaders signed the terms. They had no choice. But maybe, just maybe, they would learn. Maybe this could be the start of something better. As Tae-sung walked out of the building, Hye-jin met him. The operation was successful, Commander. Total victory, he nodded. Victory. But at what cost? She understood. The cost of peace is always high. But the cost of continued war would have been higher. They looked up at the sky, at the human fleet in orbit, at the ships that had brought death and destruction. Now those ships would bring something else. Protection, order, a chance for the galaxy to heal. But everyone would remember what humanity was capable of. Everyone would remember the executioners who saved them. Captain Dae-hyun stood in the dropship with his company. 50 soldiers in full combat armor. They had trained for this mission for 2 days. That was all the time they needed. The target was a Ravager forward base on an asteroid. The base coordinated attacks on 3 nearby coalition worlds. It had thousands of Ravagers and heavy defensive systems. Coalition forces had tried to take it twice. Both times they failed with massive casualties. Humans were going to do it in 6 hours. 2 minutes to drop, the pilot announced. Dae-hyun checked his weapons one last time. His rifle, his sidearm, his combat knife. All ready, he looked at his soldiers. They looked back with calm eyes. No fear. Just focus, remember the plan. Fast and violent. We do not give them time to react. We do not give them time to call for help. In and out. Sir, yes, sir, they replied together. The dropship shook as it hit the asteroid's thin atmosphere. Coalition observers watched from orbit. Kyung-soo was with them, along with several military officers. They had access to video feeds from human helmet cameras. The dropship doors opened. Dae-hyun jumped first. His soldiers followed. They fell toward the base in the low gravity. At the last moment, their armor's thrusters fired. They landed hard but controlled. Ravager sensors detected them immediately. Alarms blared across the base. Defensive turrets swiveled toward the landing zone. Bora's voice came through the communication channel. Turrets going dark in 3, 2, 1. Every turret stopped working at once. The electromagnetic pulse had fried their systems. The first gift from human engineering. Move, move, move. Daehyun ordered. His company split into 3 groups. They moved through the base with practiced efficiency. Ravagers poured out of barracks and defensive positions. They were big creatures twice the size of humans with natural armor and powerful limbs. None of it mattered. Human weapons cut through them like they were paper. Kinetic rounds punched through armor. Plasma bursts burned through flesh. The Ravagers tried to fight back, but humans moved too fast. They used cover expertly. They coordinated their fire. Every shot seemed to hit its target. Kyung-soo watched in horror. The helmet camera feeds showed violence he could barely understand. Human soldiers moved like dancers, but their dance was death. They cleared rooms in seconds. They moved through corridors without hesitation. When Ravagers tried to ambush them, they somehow knew it was coming and struck first. "How do they know where the enemy is?" a coalition officer asked. Lieutenant Hee-jin stood nearby, watching the feeds calmly. "We study the enemy. We know how they think, how they fight, where they will be before they get there. This is what we train for." Daehyun's group reached the command center. Ravager officers tried to organize a defense. They had heavy weapons. They had superior numbers in this part of the base. The humans used grenades. Special grenades that created barriers of energy. Ravager weapons fire bounced off harmlessly. Then humans returned fire through the barriers. The Ravager commanders fell one by one. "Command center secured," Daehyun reported, setting charges now. The other groups reported similar success. The communications hub was destroyed. The power systems were sabotaged. The hangar bays were burning. Total mission time, 4 hours and 18 minutes. "All units extract now," Daehyun ordered. The soldiers moved back to the landing zone. More Ravagers tried to stop them. They failed. Dropships came in under covering fire from human fighters. The soldiers boarded and lifted off. As they cleared the asteroid, the charges detonated. The entire base exploded from within. Secondary explosions followed as ammunition and fuel supplies ignited. Within minutes, there was nothing left but debris. "Mission successful," Daehyun reported to Commander Tae-sung. "0 friendly casualties. Enemy base completely destroyed. Good work, Captain." Return to base. The observation deck was silent. Coalition officers stared at the debris field. They had lost hundreds of soldiers trying to take that base. Humans had done it in hours with no losses. "This was your first combat operation?" General Courtna asked quietly. Hyejin nodded. "Yes, the first of many." The next 3 weeks were a nightmare for the Ravagers. Human forces hit 6 targets simultaneously: supply depots, communication stations, fleet repair facilities. Every attack was perfectly planned and brutally executed. Kyung-soo watched it all. He saw human tactics that coalition commanders had never imagined. They used psychological warfare, broadcasting messages into Ravager communication channels. The messages described in detail what humans would do to any Ravager they captured. None of it was true, but the Ravagers did not know that. Fear spread through Ravager ranks. These creatures had never known fear before. They were the predators, the conquerors, but humans made them afraid. Bo-Ra developed new weapons with disturbing frequency. She created missiles that could hunt ships across entire star systems. She built mines that looked like normal debris until they detected enemy vessels. She designed plasma charges that could burn through blast doors in seconds. Each weapon was more terrible than the last. Each weapon was used without hesitation. Then something unprecedented happened. The Ravagers sent a communication request. They wanted to negotiate. The Coalition Council chamber filled quickly. Representatives could not believe what they were hearing. Ravagers never negotiated. They had ignored every attempt at communication. They had rejected every offer of peace, but now they were asking to talk. Commander Tae-sung appeared on the display. His expression was cold. Veltra spoke first. "Commander, the Ravagers have requested negotiations. This is an opportunity for peace." "No," Tae-sung said simply. The chamber erupted in confused voices. Kyung-soo stood up. "Commander, surely we should at least hear what they have to say." Tae-sung looked at him. His voice was like ice. "They killed billions of your people. They destroyed 12 worlds. They refused every attempt at peace until we started winning. Now they want to negotiate because they are losing. I will not reward that behavior. But if we can end this without more bloodshed," Veltra began. "You cannot," Tae-sung interrupted. "If we stop now, they will rebuild. They will learn from their mistakes. They will come back stronger. The only way to truly end this is to end it completely. You mean genocide, someone said quietly. I mean making sure they can never threaten anyone again. We will accept their surrender. We will dismantle their military completely. We will occupy their worlds and ensure they cannot rebuild. But we will not negotiate. We will not compromise. We will not stop until the job is done. The transmission ended. The chamber filled with worried conversation. Some representatives looked relieved that the humans were so determined. Others looked terrified of what humanity might become. Kyung-soo sat down heavily. He thought about the human forces, their efficiency, their ruthlessness, their absolute determination to win. The Ravagers had awakened something terrible. They had forced humanity to show its true face, and that face was the face of an apex predator that had spent millions of years learning how to kill. 3 days later, a Ravager fleet attempted a counterattack. Intelligence had detected a human supply convoy. Poorly defended, they thought. An easy target. It was a trap. Human battleships had been hiding in the debris field nearby. When the Ravager fleet attacked the convoy, the battleships emerged. They opened fire at point-blank range. The battle lasted 11 minutes. The entire Ravager fleet was destroyed. Not damaged. Not defeated. Destroyed. Turned into expanding clouds of gas and metal. Coalition observers watched in stunned silence. The humans had predicted the attack, had prepared for it, had used it to eliminate a major enemy force. Kyung-soo realized something that made his blood run cold. Humanity had been planning this entire war before they even arrived. Every move, every battle, every trap. They had studied the Ravagers and designed a strategy to break them completely. This was not a war. It was an execution, and the executioners were just getting started. The fortress world of Tarkus had never seen this much activity. Coalition military officers rushed through the command center, trying to prepare for what was coming. Above the planet, human ships took up defensive positions, except they did not look defensive at all. Kyung-soo stood in the observation deck of the main coalition station. He watched human shuttles moving between ships. Watched construction drones building structures on the planet's surface. Everything moved with purpose, with precision. It made him nervous. A voice spoke behind him. Impressive, is it not? He turned. A human woman in military uniform stood there. She was shorter than him, with dark hair tied back and sharp eyes that seemed to notice everything. Her uniform had markings that identified her as a lieutenant. I am Lieutenant Hae-jin, Intelligence and Tactical Operations. Commander Tae-sung asked me to brief your leadership on our battle plan. Kyung-soo gestured toward the window. You work very fast, she smiled, but it did not reach her eyes. We have been preparing for this our entire lives. We train for war even during peace. It is what we do. They walked to the command center together. Coalition military leaders were already there, waiting. General Kortna, a veteran from the Vrexian species, looked frustrated. His scales were dark blue with stress. Hee-jin pulled up a holographic display. It showed the entire war front. Red marks indicated Ravager positions, blue marks showed coalition forces, and now green marks appeared where human forces were deploying. This is our plan, she said simply. The green marks started moving on the display. They did not move toward defensive positions. They moved forward, directly toward the red marks. General Kortna leaned forward. You plan to attack? That is suicide. The Ravagers have superior numbers and firepower. We have been trying to hold defensive lines. Hee-jin nodded. Yes, you have. And you have been losing. Defense allows the enemy to choose when and where to attack. We will not give them that choice. She zoomed in on one red mark. This is a Ravager forward base. They use it to coordinate attacks and resupply their fleets. We will destroy it in the next 48 hours. But the defensive perimeter, another officer protested. If we move forces forward, we leave gaps. There will be no gaps, Hee-jin said, because the Ravagers will be too busy responding to our attacks to exploit them. We will hit them everywhere at once. They will not know where to defend. Kyung-soo watched the display. The human plan was aggressive, dangerous. It went against everything the coalition had learned about fighting the Ravagers. What about casualties? He asked quietly. Hee-jin looked at him. Her expression was serious. We will take casualties. War always has casualties, but every day we wait, the Ravagers kill more of your civilians. Every day we defend instead of attack, they grow stronger. We end this fast or we let it continue until everyone is dead. Those are the only options. The room went quiet. Nobody could argue with that logic. It was brutal, but it was true. The next day, Kyung-soo went down to the surface. He wanted to see the human soldiers up close, wanted to understand what made them different. The training ground was massive. Hundreds of human soldiers moved through combat drills. They wore armor that looked heavy but moved like it weighed nothing. They carried weapons that seemed too large, too powerful. Kyung-soo watched them practice urban combat scenarios. They moved through a mock city with speed and coordination that seemed impossible. They communicated with hand signals and short words. Every movement had purpose. No wasted energy. No hesitation. A coalition soldier stood nearby, also watching. He was young, from a species that looked like tall, thin mammals. His name was Prex, and he looked disturbed. They trained to kill, Prex said quietly. Not to defend. Not to protect. To kill. Kyung-soo nodded. Yes, they do. A human soldier approached them. He was older, with scars on his face and arms. His rank insignia identified him as a captain. Captain Dae-hyun, according to his name tag. You look worried, Dae-hyun said. His voice was friendly, almost casual. Like he was discussing the weather instead of war. Prex spoke up. Your methods seem very violent. Very aggressive, Dae-hyun nodded. They are. War is violent. Pretending otherwise just makes it last longer and kill more people. But there must be rules, Kyung-soo said. Standards of conduct. Ways to minimize suffering. The captain looked at him with something like pity. You want to fight a polite war. A civilized war. But the Ravagers do not care about your rules. They will kill every single one of you and never lose sleep over it. He pointed toward his soldiers. We learned something a long time ago. The only way to stop an enemy who will not surrender is to make them unable to fight. We do not do this because we enjoy it. We do this because it works. That afternoon, Kyung-soo met with engineer Bo-ra. She had requested a meeting to demonstrate human weapons technology. He was not sure he wanted to see it, but his job required him to understand what humanity had brought to the war. Bo-ra was young and energetic. She smiled constantly and talked fast. Her enthusiasm was disturbing given what she was showing him. This is a standard kinetic penetrator round, she explained cheerfully. She held up a metal cylinder that was 1/2 meter long. It travels at a significant fraction of light speed. When it hits a ship, it does not explode. It just punches through. Hull compartments, people, systems. Everything in its path. She pulled up a video. It showed a test firing against a decommissioned ship. The round hit. The ship seemed fine for a moment. Then atmosphere vented from dozens of holes. The entire vessel broke apart. Efficient, right? Bo-ra said proudly. And this is just the basic weapon. We have much more interesting options. Kyung-soo felt sick. More interesting? She showed him electromagnetic pulse weapons that could disable entire fleets. Guided missiles that could track targets across solar systems. Plasma weapons that could burn through any known armor. Each demonstration was worse than the last. Coalition weapons were designed to disable and discourage. Human weapons were designed to destroy completely. Why do you make such terrible things? He asked finally. Bo-ra's smile faded. She looked serious for the first time. Because if we did not, someone else would. And they would use them against us. Earth learned that lesson over and over throughout our history. Now we make sure we are always the most dangerous thing in the room. That night, alarms sounded across the station. Kyung-soo rushed to the command center. Coalition sensors had detected Ravager scouts near human positions. The scouts probed the defenses for an hour. They scanned. They observed. Then they left. Jumped to faster than light travel and disappeared. Commander Tae-sung appeared on the communication display. He looked satisfied. Good, they saw us. Now they know we are here. Is that good? General Kortna asked. Now they will bring more forces. Tae-sung smiled. It was not a nice smile. Let them. Let them bring everything they have. We want them to know where we are. We want them to come for us. Because when they do, we will show them what happens when you threaten humanity's friends. He paused, then added quietly, we spent centuries fighting each other on Earth. We know every dirty trick. Every cruel strategy, every way to break an enemy's will to fight. The Ravagers think they are predators. They have no idea what real predators look like. The transmission ended. Kyung-soo looked around the command center. Coalition officers looked worried, frightened. They had asked Earth for help. They had gotten something else entirely. They had gotten monsters. Monsters who smiled and laughed and made art. But monsters nonetheless. Monsters who were very, very good at their job, and that job was killing. The council chamber on Valar Prime was quiet. Too quiet. Ambassador Kyung-Soo looked around the massive room and saw fear on every face. Representatives from 50 different species sat in their designated seats, but nobody spoke. They all knew why they were here. The holographic display at the center of the chamber showed 12 red marks. 12 worlds, all gone. The Ravagers had destroyed them in just 6 months. Billions of lives erased, and they were not stopping. Kyung-Soo stood up slowly. His people, the Valens, were herbivores. They had never understood violence. His species had joined the coalition 300 years ago and found peace among the stars. They traded, they learned, they shared cultures. War was something from ancient history books, but the Ravagers did not care about peace. The council leader, a tall being with blue crystalline skin, spoke in a tired voice. Her name was Veltra, and she looked like she had not slept in weeks. She probably had not. We have tried everything. Our fleets cannot stop them. Our weapons barely slow them down. They do not negotiate. They do not accept surrender. They just destroy and move forward. A representative from the insectoid krill species clicked his mandibles nervously. What options do we have left? Do we run? Do we abandon our worlds? Where would we go? Another asked. They will follow us anywhere. Kyung-Soo took a deep breath. He had been thinking about this for days. There was one option nobody had mentioned yet. One species they had not asked for help. What about Earth? He said quietly. The chamber went even quieter. Several representatives looked at him with confusion. A few laughed, though the sound was bitter and hopeless. The humans? Someone said. They are traders and diplomats. They sell us their art and their music. What could they possibly do against the Ravagers? Kyung-Soo had done his research. He had spent weeks reading everything the Coalition had on Earth and humanity. Most of it was recent. Humans had only joined galactic society 40 years ago. They seemed friendly, peaceful. They ran restaurants on trade stations. They wrote beautiful poetry. They made everyone laugh with their strange sense of humor. But there were older records, too. Records from the first contact team. Records that mentioned something unusual. Earth had unified under a single government, but it had taken them a long time. Their history was full of wars. Thousands of wars. They have a military, Kyung-Soo said. A real one. They talk about it sometimes, but they never show it to us. What if there is a reason for that? Veltra looked interested now. Go on. Humans evolved on a death world. High gravity. Dangerous predators. Their planet tried to kill them for millions of years. They survived by being adaptable, by being clever, by being persistent, and yes, by fighting. The Krell representative clicked again. So did dozens of other species. We all evolved from something. That does not make them warriors. Maybe not, Kyung-Soo admitted. But what if I am right? What if they have capabilities we have not seen? What do we have to lose by asking? The chamber filled with worried whispers. Representatives talked among themselves. Some argued. Some looked desperate enough to try anything. Finally, Veltra raised her hand for silence. We will vote. All in favor of requesting military assistance from Earth? Lights appeared across the chamber. More than half of the representatives voted yes. It was enough. The message was sent that same day. It was marked as urgent. Coalition emergency protocols. The situation was explained clearly. 12 worlds destroyed, billions dead, an unstoppable enemy. They needed help. Any help? Nobody expected a fast response. Earth was far from the front lines. Even with faster-than-light communication, it might take days to get an answer. Maybe weeks. The response came in 4 hours. Kyung-Soo was in his quarters when the alert came through. He rushed back to the council chamber. Other representatives were already there, looking at the display with confusion and surprise. The message from Earth was short, professional, almost cold. Message received. Help is coming. Earth Defense Force en route. Arrival in 72 hours. Stand by for further instructions. That was it. No questions. No negotiations. No requests for more information. Just a confirmation that they were coming. What is the Earth Defense Force? Someone asked. Nobody knew. The Coalition database had almost nothing on human military structure. It was classified, apparently. Humans had always been polite but firm about keeping those details private. The next 3 days felt like 3 years. The Ravagers continued their advance. Another world fell. The Coalition fleet pulled back, trying to buy time. Then the sensors detected something at the edge of Coalition space. Ships emerging from faster-than-light travel. A lot of ships. Kyung-soo was in the council chamber again when the first images came through. He stared at the display and felt his blood turn cold. The human ships were nothing like their civilian vessels. Those were sleek and friendly with smooth curves and bright colors. These were angular, dark, covered in armor plating and weapon systems. They looked brutal, efficient, scary. There were dozens of them. Large battleships, smaller cruisers, carriers that held fighters and bombers, support vessels loaded with supplies and equipment. This was not a token force. This was a fleet built for war. A communication request came through. Veltra accepted it. The holographic display showed a human male in a dark military uniform. He had short black hair and cold eyes. His face showed no emotion. "This is Commander Tae-sung of the Earth Defense Force. We received your request for assistance against the Ravager threat. My fleet is at your disposal." His voice was calm, professional, but there was something underneath it. Something hard. Veltra found her voice. "Commander, we are grateful for your response. We had hoped for defensive support. Advisors, perhaps. We did not expect a full military fleet." Tae-sung almost smiled. It was not a warm expression. "You asked for help against an enemy that has killed billions of your people. We do not send advisors for that. We send solutions." "What kind of solutions?" Kyung-soo asked before he could stop himself. Tae-sung looked directly at him. The commander's eyes were like ice. Permanent ones. "You asked us to help you survive. We will do that. But understand something clearly. We did not come here to defend your worlds. We came here to end the threat completely. We do not negotiate with genocidal species. We eliminate them." The chamber went silent. Nobody knew what to say. They had asked for soldiers. They had expected protectors, maybe peacekeepers. What they got were executioners. Tae-sung continued. "My officers will coordinate with your military leadership. We will need full access to your intelligence on Ravager positions and capabilities. We deploy in 24 hours. Stay out of our way and let us work." The transmission ended. The hologram disappeared. The council chamber erupted in panicked conversation. Kyung-soo sat down slowly. He looked at the display showing the human fleet. Those dark, dangerous ships floating in space like predators waiting to hunt. "What have I done?" he whispered to himself. Veltra heard him. She walked over and put a crystalline hand on his shoulder. "You did what you had to do. We asked for help. Now we see what kind of help humanity offers." Kyung-soo watched the display. One of the human battleships was moving. Even from this distance, he could see the weapons systems. He could see the armor. He could see the purpose in every line of its design. The galaxy was about to learn something new about humanity. Something they had hidden behind smiles and art and peaceful trade. Humans knew how to kill, and they were very, very good at it.